Everything was fine and dandy in TFT land, with more than half of every gathering of friendly little legends opting for a comp with a Wolfman in it. Well, I think this reference is getting kind of old. Let's just say that this B patch changed the meta quite a bit. Yeah, that's a good intro, short and to the point. Honestly, who writes these things? Hey everyone, and welcome back to another ProGuides TFT video. Today we're going to be talking about patch 10.21b's must-play comps and why they're so successful. Make sure to play these comps when you can and you'll definitely see a rise in rank. As with every top comps list, getting the top comp will not guarantee you first place, but it will go ahead and give you guys a high enough chance to finish for a top 4 and then you guys that sweet LP. Positioning, items, and scouting are still your most important tools in this game, working together with your comp in order to give you guys that shiny first place. In this video we'll be talking about each comp, a general playstyle guide, a look at items and their usage, and their positioning. This B patch nerfed Divine, which was a really good move, instead of nerfing Warwick a couple of OP items, as well as the next new OP a bit preemptively, since Divine was already going to take a hit. The extreme popularity of Divine has already warped the meta, and its nerf now creates a lot of room for comps to shine. Since big patches usually do not follow versions of the B patch, the comps that we talk about here today will probably be strong well into 10.22, so pay attention. For our question of the day, have you found any new OPs yet? Which comps are you rocking the ladder with? Before we dive in, I want to let you guys know that we have a Discord community and a new subreddit that's growing really fast. We also want to thank you for that, and we want to continue building our community and help you guys become a part of it. Make sure you check the link in the description down below. TFT patch 10.21b notes. We talked a lot about 10.21b, so what really happened? Well, Adept was a bit too good a splash, and with the Chosen, it was a little bit too much, so it got a little nerf. Divine got nerfs in both its damage reduction and true damage. Akali got a nerf in her 3-star form, which was really too strong, and 2 items that needed nerfs got them. Namely, Locket got a significant nerf to its 2 and 3-star shield, and Static Shift went away from crowd-controlled enemies and now only damages shielded ones. All of this amalgamates to Divine being playable, but Warwick itemization is back to normal without the Shiv abuse. The comp is still playable, but with different Wolfman itemization. And with that all being said, let's go ahead and dive right into our top comp for 10.21b, and that is Sharpshooters. Well, they were a must-play anyway, and no changes hit them in the next patch. Jinx and friends are taken to the arena with gusto, wrecking everything in their path. They still have counters, which is nice, so it doesn't feel like the inevitability that Divine felt like. Sharpshooters are a comp that can go on a win streak from start to finish. If you find one of them chosen, then you can go ahead and use Fortune Start with an early Jinx. An interesting start if you find a chosen and a Jinx is to go to 4 Sharpshooters. In most cases, you'll actually win out most matches until 2-5 just off of pure damage and splash. This is a rarity, but if you see the chance, make sure you take it. Make sure you position properly in the early game, depending on whether you lose or win streaking. Sharpshooters early do not really have many ways to protect the carries, so it's recommended that you scout and position your Jinx on the other side of any encroaching assassins. You don't need a level 2 quickly, but level 7 and probably level 8 is an absolute must. Once you get to level 7, unless you have a chosen Jinx, you should probably be selling your chosen and then look for a 4-cost one. This comp functions well with many of the 4-cost chosens, such as Jhin, Aatrox, Riven, Cassio, and Sejuani. And depending on the chosen, you can even go for a tankier version of the Vanguard Mystic with full offense and 4 Dusk and so on. Be mindful, if you can fit it, actually getting 6 Sharpshooters is a ridiculous increase in AoE damage and should definitely be considered. However, 4 Sharpshooter version is one that is more reliably hit and more than good enough to win with. Your win condition is usually 3 stars units and proper positioning. 3-star and Jinx will allow you to go for some amazing damage, and you don't get me even started with Jhin. Playing in Azir is also a really nice touch whether you have a keeper or not. It'll allow you to bunker up your Jinx even more using those soldiers of his. It's a really good move in the meta where assassins are rampant. The overall positioning of the comp is straightforward, and it looks somewhat like this. You want to protect your Jinx at all costs. You can make 2 bunches instead of 1, but it ends up being more prone to RNG targeting and more counterable by opponents targeting you specifically. If there aren't many assassins, making 2 bunches and protecting them with soldiers while Sejuani stuns everyone in the front is a great option as well. Ludens is good on Jinx, especially in the early game. You will have a lot of success going for Shojin and Zeke's combo though. Remember not to put the Zeke's on the Jhin, as that's a really big bait right there. You will lose the option of separating the two, and Jhin doesn't really benefit much from full attack speed anyway. He likes Last Whisper, Giant Slayer, Guardian's Angel, and the usual. Getting 1 or 2 items on your Sejuani isn't too bad either, especially a Gargoyle Stoneplate, as she will almost always be your solo frontliner. Let's go ahead and move on to our next comp. Quite literally jumping into her hearts, Talon has actually made a must play. The comp is between the top 3 and the top 4 in our book, but since we haven't really covered it all before, it seems like a good time, so let's go for it now. Talon really relies on specific items, generally including lots of swords. Just a ton of swords. If you're not getting a few by Krugs, it's probably not advised to go for this comp. You should have a flexible playstyle early on, finding something that can be used on Talon's items as well. Zed, Kali, or even Yasuo can be your item carriers. If you get a Talon early, then your direction is pretty clear. Do try to pick up extras once you 2-star him as well, as he is quite a huge win con at 3 stars, and finding him a Chosen gets you 3 copies instantly. At level 7, you can always sell the Chosen that you're using, as this comp doesn't really rely on Chosen to hit the spikes or even its final form. While playing it, your goal is to have Chosens that both make sense, as well as are strong units overall. A good example is Chosen Morgana, which is incredible with this comp, especially if you can get a Morellos on her. Don't be too picky and choose what's best for your current situation. You should always try to get level 8 with this comp, as you can go rather wide on the synergy list, and even wider depending on your Chosen. Your level 9, if you get to it, is usually played around your Chosen. Got an Enlightened Chosen, go for a level 6 Enlightened. Got Dazzler, play 4 Dazzler, and so on. For all intents and purposes, you can stay at 8 and be fine, but if you find yourself win streaking out of your mind, don't hesitate. As always, when playing an assassin carry, you do not have any set positioning. Talon should be moved around the board, aiming for a good initial target so that he can jump around quickly as possible. Besides that, you want a decent positioning for the rest of your units. Putting them in this default setup works well every round. Space out everything and give no indication of your leaning, if any. You can position your front line towards the clumps if you want to, except Yone of course, or you can go ahead and leave them spaced. That way you can have the maximum aggro, and then Talon is free to wreak havoc. He resets aggro anyways, so it shouldn't be too hard. This is going to be your itemization. You want to take Infinity Edge, Guardian Angel, and Giant Slayer, which are the best for Talon. Bloodthirster being kind of decent, but cutting down his damage quite a little bit. Morello Nomicon from Morgana is an excellent item, or you can go ahead and give Shanna Sunfire. Healing reduction is something that you need right now, so pick it up when you can. Vanguard Mystic Ahri. She snuck back to the top. Ahri did not do well in the Divine meta, getting hunted down by unkillable Warwicks. She can definitely rumble with the best of them now, especially with the buff to Zeke's, allowing her to cast even faster and then giving you something to do with your belts and swords. Playstyle. This comp plays a lot like the Sorcerer Gangplank comp in set 3. You play a tanky front to back comp early, hitting level 7 and then ruling out for 4 costs. Your main aim are Aatrox, Sejuani, and Ahri. Getting any of them chosen is excellent, especially Vanguard chosen to skip the 4th one. This comp can start win streaking for days towards the end of the mid game if you hit a couple of your 4 cost 2 stars, especially Ahri. Due to the standalone strengths of your units, this comp likes 2 stars a lot, as they are fairly big power spikes in every single turn. You will need to get to level 8 in order to have a better chance of finding Zillion, as well as your increased chances of 4 costs. As we said, finding 2 stars is extremely important to your board strength. If you see the chance for any other Ahri comps like a 6 mage one, it's not a terrible idea to go for it, but it lacks the consistency of this version, hence our rating of it. This comp is extremely stable and consistent, netting you top 4s every single time you play it if you do it right. It's really important not to lose much HP at the beginning, as one lapse in judgment or positioning and your Ahri is dead, and this will usually lose you the round. This RNG can happen, and that is why preserving as much HP as possible by losing gracefully or, while winning, is extremely crucial. Positioning. This is a rather traditional positioning for this one, cornering Ahri and then moving her around if you don't have Quicksilver and there's Zephyrs on Aatrox. The interesting part that you may not have really known is how strong Cassio is in the front line. She's fairly squishy when 1-star, but her 2-star form is tanky enough to unleash Petrification at many targets of the enemy team. If Cassio and Sejuani manage to stagger their ultimates, then oh boy, the opponents in front of them are going to spend a lot of time CC'd. Ahri likes AP items like Jeweled Gauntlet or Rabadons, and usually Guardian's Angel, but it's fully not necessary. Chalice of Harmony is actually fairly decent on Yuumi on top of Zeke's, as we mentioned earlier. If you give the Zeke's effect to Ahri, she'll be attacking so much faster, hitting that spare buff early, and then it's all downhill from there, for your opponents. As always, itemizing for your front line is a good job. And that's it for our must-play comps. Without further ado, let's go ahead and move into the honorable mentions. Akali Assassins is, and maybe better than Talon. We have covered it before though, but don't let it stop you from playing it. It's amazing despite the Akali nerf. Ashe comps are still excellent, Ashe and Friends as well as the Brawler version. Duelists without perfect items are not great, but aside from Jax and Lee, the units are really uncontested and can be the dark horse of the lobby. And that's gonna be it for the video. We'll be uploading every week on Wednesday and Sunday. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to check out our TFT content on YouTube and our high elo coaches on ProGuides.com. If you have any feedback for us, comment below and we'll be happy to read what you have to say. Now get out there and farm some LP using the must-play comps that you saw here today. And again, my name is Nathan Ng, and I apologize for my voice being a little bit raspy. Not raspy, but just dead, because I've done a lot of voiceovers today. But please, thank you for bearing with me. Love you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have a wonderful day. Peace.